Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Shira, and I'm here with Lee, Juji, and Kim. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Have you ever put your needs and opinions completely aside while having a conversation with someone? Today, we're discussing the importance of being unconditionally present while controlling our impulse to insert ourselves. To start us off, Kim, I believe you wanted to share something that impacted you, which led us to choosing holding space as today's topic.
I did, yeah. I'm so excited to talk about this topic because it's really shifted my perspective in my life with others and having conversations with other people and everyone, my family, my friends. A few weeks ago, we had Jason Sirois on the show, and he has a podcast. And, in prep for that episode, I listened to his podcast, Pursuit of Cross-Racial Friendship is the name of it. And they did an episode about holding space for each other. And in this episode, his friend Eva basically really spelled out what holding space meant to her. And we'll make sure we incorporate that link to the podcast down below in the comments because it's so important. But it just really opened up my eyes, honestly. She talked about, us having our own needs in that space that you are holding for others. And right away, just listening to her speak, I was like, wow, am I unconditionally present? No. Do I have needs in this space? I didn't want to admit this to myself, but yeah, I do actually. I'm very much a people pleaser, a fixer. I've had things happen in my childhood that have helped sort of contribute to those issues of mine. And I definitely, when friends come to me and they, need me to just listen and show them that they're cared about, I'm 100% there with that. But I definitely come from a place of what can I do? What can I do to fix this? How can I help them? What can I say right now that's going to make her feel better? Just like I'm here, and just listening to everything Eva was saying, it just really made me question how much I don't hold space for others because my attention is more on me. And it's not on purpose. It's not in a malicious way at all. I'm a very loving person, and I really believe that I think I'm a good listener. I try to listen, but I think I just definitely somewhere deep in me, I don't know if it's my ego or whatever, is just there's a need in there that I have. And I'm 100% transparent about it. It's there. And I've been seeing it and trying to work on it, with my husband, especially being more present for him. I interrupt him a lot, I notice. And especially now that I notice it even more now after I listen to this podcast. There was something else Eva said too about holding space. And that was, we so often take for granted what someone else is saying because we're focused on ourselves. We tend to like incorporate so naturally, oh yeah, me too, or oh, that happened to me, oh well, yeah, well, when that happened to me, I blah 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 blah, or just and you're like actually taking for granted what the other person's saying instead of listening, obviously, and only interrupting or responding to make them feel, cared about, or to just validate something they're saying, maybe. But so often it's in this, so often it's from this place of like us needing to validate or feel heard, or I don't know. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I guess I'm just feeling like it's making me like look at myself, and I always like look at myself like I'm this really good friend and wife. And then I'm noticing more and more that I do this, and it's just making me really reflect on how I'm not holding space, and I'm not being there for people in the way that they need. So I want to be there the way that they need. So somewhere deep down, I clearly don't know how. So this conversation is wonderful because it's going to help me just as much as it's going to help other people out there.
I think
Wow,
you're having some realizations, although please don't feel like you're doing anything wrong. It's not about being right or wrong when you are with someone and holding space for them or trying to hold space, or where we think we're holding space or listening to someone. You are a great friend. You're a fantastic, amazing, supportive friend. So don't beat yourself up if you right now may be having a little epiphany about what you may want to do differently or change, but it doesn't mean that you have had a negative effect on anyone. Do you know what I mean? There hasn't been anything. Yeah. I mean, obviously.
And I don't want to bring it back to myself again by like, this isn't, I'm not, I definitely, I'm not, I don't feel like I'm beating myself up. And I think I'm just seeing that, wow, it's really not about me. It's about what I'm giving and how to give it. And it's like, I'm 45 years old and I'm learning how to give someone what they need. Wow.
Yeah.
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 I thought I had that figured out.
Juji?
Well, it's interesting that we're covering this topic because Kim, you and I met in Landmark, which is a self-development program. And one of the tenets, which I don't feel was focused on significantly, but I remember it distinctly, was listen, add nothing. And the exercise was to turn to the person next to you and share something with them, and then they share something with you, and they are not allowed to say anything back, and you're not allowed to respond to them when they're sharing something personal with you. And I remember how uncomfortable that was, because you wanted to either hug them or say like, it's going to be okay, or something along those lines, because that's what we've been taught is being a good friend and is being there for somebody. But there's like a level of control in that, right? Like there's a level of like, okay, this is an uncomfortable situation. And if I could just say the right thing, then we can like move through it faster. Like we'll just get to the other side of this discomfort, and then we can all just go back to being like happy and everything's going to be great again. And to like not have that opportunity when you're like, and you're with a stranger, more than likely the person next to you is a complete stranger. So you're like, this person just told me something super personal and I can't say anything. Like to really hold yourself back and then hold yourself accountable for when it is somebody really important in your life who is sharing something really major with you. It's like, okay, this isn't about me. It's not about controlling it. It's not about getting to the other side of it. It's about like, what in this moment does that person need me to do? Just listen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna have like I had a little moment just now also, because, and it actually has to do with Lee's response to Kim, because Kim, while you were talking, while you were all of a sudden getting emotional, it definitely caught me off guard, but I was just like, it made me lean in like, wow, what is she going to say right now? And I noticed that, and Lee, forgive me, but I noticed that Lee went right to, but no, but you're a good friend. Like that doesn't make you a bad person. And that's such a good example of, the holding spaces. Like Kim, you were just saying, like when someone tells you something, I just want to fix it. I just want to make it better. And I just want to. So I sort of noticed, and I absolutely was thinking the same exact thing. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? But it sounds like, Kim, you were just sort of expressing this vulnerability of like, wow, I thought I was such a good listener, but I can actually be better. I'm having awareness of how I can be an even better listener. And there's such beauty in that. And so just holding space to allow you to have your epiphany and say, wow, like, you're right. Like, good for you for realizing that you can be an even better listener. Because for as good as we all think we are at any given trait, like there's always room for improvement. That's what evolution's about. That's what awareness is about. Like that, it doesn't mean that anything that you've done before that was wrong. It's just led you to a new awareness.
A
And
new
so
view.
a new view, exactly, yay.
And Lee,
I
I
also,
appreciate what you said too. Thank you.
what, honey?
I just wanted to say thank you to Lee for what she said.
No, it's
That-
really true. I mean, I can't think of a better, your friendship is so important to you. So obviously you take such care, as we all do. But when we stop and think like, oh, how can I do this maybe even a little better? Or what am I? And so to have that awareness of Jason talking about holding space, and then you sort of delving into it further, and then coming up with the topic for this conversation is so beautiful, because I have been with so many people in my life who really don't truly listen. It's always about, you can even see it in their eyes sometimes, like what they're just waiting for the right moment to like dart in and just tell their story or try to fix you, or to like, that's such a phenomenon. And we don't teach enough at all about how to truly listen to somebody. And the only other thing I want to say is, one of the things that Jason said in that interview that I absolutely loved is, he realized when he was getting better at it, when he was so lost in the other person's story that he actually forgot what he was going to say next. That's when you know that you're truly listening, when you're so immersed in what the other person is trying to convey that you're out of your own monkey brain. That's the goal.
And it's so interesting too, Lee, your response to me, the first thing that came up for me was, I thought of a good friend of mine who, will vent to me about how lonely she is. And she's really, really lonely. And I just want to fix it so freaking bad. I love her so much, and I hate that she's in so much pain. And it's like sort of an ongoing thing, and I find myself always like looking for things to say to her to make her feel better, instead of just listening and just saying words to show her I care. I skip to, things like, well, have you tried this? Or, oh my God, it's temporary. There's just always things I say to try to fix it.
Yeah, yeah. And and so when I said that to you, I actually had an instinct earlier to almost say, no, but you're great, to console you and to tell you that you're not doing anything wrong. Although I recognize and acknowledge that you had this some kind of a breakthrough. But I still also have this instinct, as most of us do, right? To put my hand on your shoulder, or to say, hey, but this also shows me, this proves, what an amazing person you are, because you want to be an even better listener, no matter how you were doing it before. You're looking to improve. And this is so much about what the basis of so many of our conversations are, is that constant improvement, which I love. And I love you all for it. And I am so comfortable in this space with you guys. This is something that's been just so pivotal and instrumental in my growth, to be surrounded by people like you guys and talk about these conversations. And as far as holding space, and it depends on how it's defined, and holding space for the most part, I guess, is like listening to someone. And what does that mean? And how do we listen to someone? And I think depending on the situation and the person and what their needs are, it sometimes is okay to say something. It doesn't mean, we don't need to say anything, although I too have done these exercises, like Juju, you mentioned, right, at Landmark, where you sit there and you're in front of a stranger and you get to just shut your mouth for like 30 seconds or a full minute while they're talking. And it's hard because, yeah, people get emotional and you just want to hug them, and you can't, and you don't say anything. And in real life, when it comes to real life, I mean, it's no different, but it's even harder, because we know people and we can touch them more easily. We can console them more easily. And I think that it's very important to sometimes approach these situations, if you are sitting and listening to somebody, with a question to see what it is that they need. Hey, I'm here for you. do you want me to sit here and just listen to you? Because I'm here and I'll do that for you. Or do you want my suggestions? Do you want my opinion? Do you want any feedback? Because I'll do that too. And I think that may also be a part of holding space.
That's great, Lee. That's so
I
great.
love that. I want to just say something too that just dawned on me. My husband has been saying to me for so long. I mean, we've been together for 8 years, and so 8 years he's probably been saying this to me. I interrupt him a lot. Now he does it to me too, so he's guilty just as much as I am. But it's definitely an issue between us. You know, it's something we talk about on a weekly basis, because it just happens all the time. And when one of us is in it, when he's in a story, there's just questions about that story that I want to know at that moment. Like, I don't want to wait for him to finish the story. I want to know, oh wait, was she the one who blah blah blah, like whatever the question is. And you know, same thing. He'll be like, well, I just need to get it out or I'm gonna forget it. And I'm like, well, but that's not, you're not letting me speak, right? It's like, so I'm sure a lot of couples have this issue. But what's interesting to me is that, and it's making me feel very emotional right now. I actually can't wait to have a conversation with him about it. Is that it wasn't until I listened to this podcast episode, I don't know if it was like the passion in Eva's voice to like truly be cared about, felt cared about and heard from her friend. And his response of, you know, he just was like quiet, and you can just hear the confusion in his voice because, and I think he said something to that fact of, well, now I'm confused because now I don't know how to be there for, like, now he's like, now I don't know what to do all of a sudden. And did I ever hold space for anyone in my whole life? Like, he had the same, I kind of went through what he went through while he was like on this, you know, doing the episode. Anyway, I just think it's interesting that my husband's been saying this to me for 8 years, you know, stop interrupting me. It's a problem. You got to stop. And then I'll be like, okay, go. And I'll like sit there and consciously be in my brain, don't say anything.
Wow.
Wait for him to stop speaking. Anyway, I just think it's interesting that it took this podcast episode for me to just have this like realization after. It's like when someone says to you, because Mike will say this to me all the time, he'll be like, you know, I've said that to you before. And Shira, what are you looking at?
I heard a knock. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought like something was happening.
No, we're good.
But you know, when someone says to you, well, Mike will say to me, like, I've said that to you before, but it wasn't until you heard it from Juji or heard it from someone else, you know, that now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah. He's like, but I've said that to you before. It's almost like that. So I'm just having this like moment.
Those moments where I call where the coconuts fall on your head.
Yeah.
Finally freaking got it.
Yes. So thank you, Jason Sirois. I'm gonna like send him an email after this and thank him because his podcast changed my life.
Yeah, and we go through that, I think, all the time. I mean, I'm 54, and like, you know, I've got these moments as well of like, holy moly, like I finally get this concept.
It's the best.
It's the best.
Juge, I think you had something you look like you were going to say.
I was just holding space for everyone. What actually was interesting about what you were saying, Kim, about your friend who's like telling you that she's going through this hard time, and like it keeps like repeating, you know, like this is an ongoing, it's not like a one-time issue that like, you know, your husband comes home and he like tells you about like something that happened at work, you know, this is like an ongoing thing that she's experiencing. So it, you know, similar but different in the sense of like, okay, this is like this is a state of being that she's experiencing that you want to fix for her because it like breaks your heart that she feels this way. And I don't want to get too off track, but I feel like one of the things that has really helped me when I see people struggling ongoing is to remind myself that we like all came here with like a lesson to learn and a purpose. And if somebody in my life is struggling with something, then my interpretation of that is like, oh, that's the lesson they came to learn in this lifetime. You know, that was their karmic destiny that they're here to experience and move through. And like, not all souls like get to the other side of that karmic lesson always. So to see somebody struggle with something for their whole life and maybe never get it is just part of the journey. And it's like, you can be along for that ride. You can be like two souls, like taking that ride together, but it's really like, you can like relieve yourself of the responsibility, that heavy, heavy, heavy responsibility of like, my friend is lonely and it's up to me to like make something better for her, because that's what she came here to learn, you know, and you can be that support and not be so burdened. Like I could see on your face how like burdened you are because you love her so much. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But like, you know, you being burdened by that doesn't unburden her. You know, it's like a major lesson that I'm learning in life, not to be burdened with the responsibility of other people's struggle, because we encounter it every single day, you know, and it doesn't help them to be burdened by their pain.
That
God,
is
I love that,
that's so
Gigi.
true. And I just want to say that we need to do an episode about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally,
Great
totally.
topic, great topic. And I love that too, Juji, because it's so true. And we are so, it's our natural, you know, instinct to want to fix things and to fix them now and to fix them for other people. And we carry these burdens, these worries, these concerns, and we don't need to. And I think there's a lot of guilt involved in that too. Like if we don't feel worried about this situation or that person, there's guilt involved. It's like, how can I not, you know? And that's another lesson. Another,
Well, you know, we're definitely hardwired. I mean, a lot of us are hardwired a certain way, right? So we don't want to like completely like rewire in 2 seconds. Like it's such a process. But one of the words that comes up for me a lot when I meditate, and even when we're having these kinds of conversations, is slow down. Because you know how, I mean, I've learned about public speaking, and sometimes the pauses between what you say is the most important part. It's like saying something and then like pausing and being quiet and just letting it sink in. So that's to me what holding space is, that pause button, right? You're putting your own whole thing on pause and you are completely listening to the other person. And Lee, I know we had your friend Sylvia on recently, and she talked about the cup. The cup is like, you have a relationship with somebody and the cup is that third entity, right? And so I'm almost picturing a visual of when you are truly listening to somebody, the conversation you're having with them is the cup. And if you feel like you want to go, just put it in the visual cup. Just let it sit there and marinate for a little bit. And you might, because it is a practice. It really, really, really is a practice. And you know, they say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So hello, listening twice as much as we talk is a beautiful thing.
yeah.
I was,
You
I
know,
was
it, interestingly enough, when you were just talking about that and how, you know, you leave it there and wait. I'm actually thinking about times where I experienced almost the opposite, where I would be talking to somebody, right? Kind of unloading about something, and they don't say a thing, but I want them to.
Mm.
Have you ever experienced that? On the flip side, right? It's like, and I'm thinking, say something, tell me.
Right.
You know, I think that actually has a lot to do with what Juji was saying. It's the uncomfort. It's that it's so uncomfortable, both sides, to just be quiet and not say anything, which definitely is a practice, Shira. Oh my gosh, because it's difficult to do. I think it's everyone's natural tendency to speak. So it's like, just it's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable. And then the other side, Lee, what you were just saying is I've been in those situations too. It's uncomfortable to not hear something back when you've just been vulnerable,
Yeah.
right?
And when you're ready, like I feel like if my time has expired of spilling, right? Then now I'm ready to hear something.
And then I guess you have to ask for that. Like, well, what do you think? Or do you have any advice for me? Sort of what Juji was saying before about, which I love. I love prefacing, like if you have to have a conversation that's like, you know, meaty, do you want me to just listen or
Yeah,
do you want feedback? I just think that is so,
yeah.
so
I
critical.
think I said that. And yes, and I think it does need to come from the person who is listening, you know, probably prior to the conversation.
Mhm.
And one thing too, you said, Lee, earlier, which is a great tip on how to hold space for others more, is asking that question, like being, you know, listening fully, and then asking that question, how can I support you? Right? Like Juju, you were saying, you know, with my friend, her journey, her lessons, anybody's journey and lessons, we all have our own. And to just ask that question, like, how can I support you on your journey?
So good.
Great stuff.
So good. Well, I think this is a really good place to wrap up, my friends. We hope you enjoyed our conversation, that it inspires you to be a better space holder for those that you love. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you soon. Thank you, stay safe, and we love you.